continue to weave through the public and private market. Do you need...
Is the tech bubble bursting again?
Should their company go? But what happens now?
And we have breaking news at 17 past the hour. Microsoft says it is laying off at least 10,000 employees, saying that it is predicting slower revenue growth.
Google is laying off 12,000 of its employees. Amazon is announcing plans to lay off more than 18,000 workers.
The big tech companies have all been on a firing spree in the past 6 months. Google's parent company Alphabet recently announced that they would be cutting 12,000 jobs globally. Microsoft has already laid off 10,000 workers, and Amazon is getting rid of 18,000 workers in the largest job cut the company has ever had in its 29-year history. And those are just the companies that are doing well. Facebook is laying off 13% of its workforce because their big play on the metaverse has failed to excite investors. And then there is Twitter, which laid off half of its workforce and then hired some of them back and then fired them again. Times are tough for businesses, and executives are being pressured by investors to make cuts wherever they can. The easiest and quickest way for businesses to save on expenses is to cut out new projects and lay off the staff working on them.
I'm responsible for the health of our company, for our direction.
There are 3 reasons that tech companies in particular hire so many people, and 3 reasons why they fire so many people just as quickly. The first reason that they had so many employees to begin with is because the largest employers in the tech space have been on a diversification spree. The largest tech companies, with the exception of Amazon, which employs a large amount of workers in its distribution centers, can run with much smaller crews than they currently do. Software is highly scalable. A single developer can produce an application that is downloadable by millions of people, which is impossible for any other type of business. Compare a company like Meta to a company like Walmart, and the difference is clear. Walmart has a similar market cap, but employs 25 times as many staff, mostly in its stores and warehouses across the country. The only other industry that comes close to this is the pharmaceutical industry, with research and development teams that create medicines that can be mass-produced once they get through the FDA approval process. However, companies like Microsoft, Meta, Alphabet, Amazon, and Apple have all hired a lot of extra staff that they don't need to run their business. Diversification has been the business motivation for this unorthodox approach of paying for too many staff. The biggest tech companies in the world are running into the problem of simply not having enough people in the world left to offer their services to. Meta's stock price is currently down more than 50% from its all-time high just 18 months ago. The sell-off began when the company announced for the first time ever that it had lost more users than it had gained in the trailing quarter. Facebook is the most used social media network in the world, with 2.96 billion active users as of the 4th quarter of 2022. But now anybody that wants a Facebook account has one, and anybody else either doesn't have access to the internet, lives in a country where Facebook is not available, or is simply not interested in joining Mark Zuckerberg's online social club. The growth of any company depends on being able to achieve one of 3 things. 1. Sell their products to more customers. 2. Charge their customers more for the same products. Or 3. Sell a wider variety of products to existing customers. For the last 19 years, Facebook's strategy was to supply their social media platform to more people. But since that is no longer possible, they are shifting their focus to the other 2 growth paths. Facebook's customers are not actually its users. Their customers are their advertisers. The product they are selling is the attention of their users and information on how to best market to them. Facebook tried option 2, charging their customers, the advertisers, more for the same product, a user base to advertise to, by collecting more information about their users so that companies could more effectively run ad campaigns. This helped Facebook's advertising revenue grow steadily, since this information could be publicly tracked. New consumer privacy protection, data storage laws, and advertising standards have stopped Facebook from being able to take this platform any further, and the company is currently at the peak of what it can charge companies to run ads on its platform. So Meta has also pursued option 3, creating a wider variety of products to sell. Meta has acquired other social media platforms like Instagram and the messaging service WhatsApp to appeal to different audiences and to different advertisers. Buying these companies involved effectively hiring more staff that were working for these companies pre-acquisition. Some were instantly made redundant as the responsibilities overlapped with existing Facebook teams, but having more products still requires more employees.
What do you think about that number, 11,000 people from Facebook?
Yeah, it's a really large number.
It's tough to comprehend. It's a lot of people.
Tech's tanking a little bit, you know. It's moving on.
Meta has also been trying to grow its range of product offerings by developing new social media platforms like the Metaverse internally. The Metaverse has been a multi-billion-dollar investment that involved hiring thousands of talented developers and engineers to build a unique but so far unsuccessful alternative to living in the real world. Meta is not the only company that is constantly trying to diversify what they do. Google has dozens of programs working at any given time that take teams of thousands of engineers to work on, and a lot of them won't ever be brought to market. It's an expensive strategy, but a company like Google that just started out as a search engine now has Google Docs, Google Mail, Google-powered computers, and YouTube, all which give the company alternative revenue streams and allow its continued growth even after everybody in the world was already using Google Search. Other tech companies have similar side projects like AI, which is an especially popular product right now, that a lot of companies are racing to commercialize, but they all require more employees. So it's time to learn how money works to find out why, if hiring people is the only way left to achieve growth, why these companies are just as quick to fire them. So if reason number one why tech companies hire so much is because they need the products to continue growing, then reason number one why they fire so much is because they can. During financial downturns, their existing customers are not going to be spending as much with them, and some might cut off their business entirely. For companies that depend on running ads, they will have less money coming in from advertisers as marketing budgets get slashed to save costs. Companies like Netflix that provide a subscription model will also have reduced revenues as customers try to save money by canceling subscriptions. If the companies grow by selling their products to more customers, charging more, or selling more products, but they are actually losing customers, there is no point of launching a new product if they can't even sell the existing products, so they have to change strategies. There is another way that companies can provide more value to their shareholders without growing, and that's by cutting costs. If growth is not going to be possible in current market conditions, then there is no point in investing so heavily into growth-focused projects. Instead, companies can cancel the least hopeful of these projects and reduce costs.
Because of this, even though the growth is there, the growth is not very much exponentially increasing. It is almost stagnant, and because of that, more and more layoffs will basically happen.
Tech companies don't have as many employees as other companies, but they are, on average, paid higher salaries, and the projects they are assigned to have additional overhead as well, making cutting employees just as effective as a cost-cutting tool. Most of the layoffs are happening in project roles outside of the day-to-day operations of these companies' existing big-ticket products. Even though some of these projects weren't promising to begin with, reason number two why tech companies hire so much is why they kept them going. The largest tech companies are in the monopoly business. If you want to search the internet, you use Google. If you want to watch videos on the internet, you use YouTube. Shopping online is dominated by Amazon, and Netflix's future is uncertain because it failed to monopolize the paid home video streaming market. These companies make billions because they monopolize important services. Unfortunately, monopolies are illegal, and there are very clear rules around what they are not allowed to do to prevent competitors from entering the market. Antitrust laws have been leveled against most major tech companies in the past, resulting in settlements that required them to pay large fines and sell off portions of their business to maintain competition. One tool that companies still have to defend themselves from competition is to hire up all of the talent that can go and work for a startup in the same industry. Tech salaries and bonuses are very high because existing companies need to keep their employees from joining startups that could make the employees very rich through stock options, which is a great outcome for the employee, but a terrible outcome for the existing business that can no longer profit off its monopoly position. Most large tech companies also include non-compete agreements into the employment contracts of their employees. Non-competes are created to protect companies that invest into research and development of new technology from having any progress they make taken by an employee that goes to work for a competing company or a new company that they start themselves. Businesses argue that without being able to enforce non-compete agreements, it wouldn't be feasible for them to invest into developing new technologies because they could just be taken by competitors, making them bear the R&D cost with no commercial advantage. The Federal Trade Commission disagrees, and has been proposing laws to ban non-compete clauses in employee contracts. The FTC argues that these clauses are often applied to low-level employees like retail staff and baristas that don't work with any commercially sensitive or proprietary information. The FTC also argues that these clauses give unwarranted power to employers, because there are workers that won't be able to find work if they leave their jobs, and they also can't seek alternative offers as leverage to ask for higher compensation in their current role. In its proposal, the FTC estimates that banning non-competes will increase workers' earnings by $300 billion annually, save consumers $148 billion annually on health costs, and the one that makes tech companies really scared is that the FTC estimates that banning non-compete agreements would double the number of companies in the same industries founded by former workers.
When you're talking about executives and engineers and tech workers, for example, or those in finance, what we've seen is that these types of restrictions are basically depriving the market of new ideas and of innovation. Because people are locked in, they can't go start even a competing business.
The best way to start a business in any industry is to get experience in that industry by working for someone else first. Non-competes make it hard for businesses to get started this way, which is exactly why tech companies like to employ as many people as they can. And while they have them, they may as well put them to work on projects that may be the future of technology, or maybe the first thing to get cut as soon as investors complain about the stock price going down. Reason number 2 that tech companies fire so many people is that they know it's going to be much harder for new companies to get established in bad market conditions because there won't be as many investors putting money behind risky new projects. Since there is no risk of new competition getting started, they don't need to hoard talent and they can cut expenses without fear of it coming back to hurt them. Reason number 3, the final reason why tech companies fire so quickly is because everybody else is doing it and getting new talent just became a lot cheaper and easier. Hiring a developer 12 months ago was very expensive and difficult. Skilled programmers were interviewing companies to see if they would be a good fit for them, not the other way around. When attracting talent was so difficult, it made sense to hold on to the employees the company already held. Since there are now 50,000 recently laid off workers in the job market, tech companies know they can find new people, so they finally have the opportunity to get rid of their underperformers. Reason number 3 that tech companies had so many of these employees to begin with is just plain bad management. As companies get bigger, more people are needed to maintain services, more managers are needed to coordinate more teams, and things like building management go from being passive-aggressive notes on the lunchroom fridge to entire departments.
I think a lot of these companies were not quick enough to act. Now you're starting to see them rip the Band-Aid off.
Streamlining corporate structures is a difficult task, and in any company with enough employees, there's always going to be a job that is totally useless. The only problem is, the workers doing this pointless tasks are normally the last ones to be fired during times like these. And to find out why, you should go and watch my video on bullshit jobs, why your job is completely pointless and why that is a good thing. A special thanks again to Foreo for making it possible for everybody to keep on learning how money works.
They're not very good. You're fired.
What?
Fired? Well, you see, I've been doing some calculating and, crunching the old numbers, and it turns out that I'll save a whole nickel if I cut your salary. Completely.